Hi, Amanda here. Welcome. This is another Makers with Heart collaboration, and for January 2022, I can't believe it's already that time already, we are all going to highlight different ways to use the stencils that Close to My Heart has. And some are probably going to use distressed oxide inks, regular inks, the texture paste. We could see some watercolors. I'm not really sure, but I think it's going to be fun. I wanted to show you in the core idea book some of the stencils. I know Julie is going to be following me tomorrow using the first set of card stencils. I am going to highlight the second bundle in the scrapbooking. So I'm using this circle one and then also the star one. I did a previous layout with the star stencil as the background, and I'll post the link here up in the corner if you want to go check that one out too. These are photos from 1992 when my best friend, still best friend, was the Grand Worthy Advisor of Michigan International Order of Rainbow for Girls. And this is her grand family. We traveled a whole bunch together this year, and I have tons of photos from her year that have just never been scrapbooked. So I'm planning on going through and doing some special layouts, like this particular one will be a feature layout in the book, and then just some more basic where I will go through and create some backgrounds and put the photos on and tell the story, but not necessarily have as much embellishing as far as dimensional and over the top, what I would call. So starting out here, I am trying to find the right color that matches the skirting on the podium in the front. And although the colors in the paper pack, because I'm using the new Sawyer paper pack, are Sundance Mints, Mulberry, Peach, Wisteria, Lemonade, Harbor, and Grape, the Mulberry was close, but just a little too into the mauve tones, where the paper tended to be a little more purpley, because that is Laura's favorite color. So I went back to my stash and I grabbed some old retired thistle cardstock, and it's not quite the same as the Mulberry, but I think it works, and it also works with the photos for the color that's in that podium cover. So here I just cut some 1.5 by 6 inch strips, and this dark blue, it's not Harbor, it's a cardstock that was in my scrap bin, so I'm not really sure what color it is. I know that it came with a Close to My Heart pack at some point, because pretty much, unless it's a textured cardstock, I only have Close to My Heart cardstock, but I'm not sure what color it is. I apologize. You could use Harbor, and that is the color that is in the Sawyer paper, but again, it was just a scrap and I only needed a few pieces, and I'm trying to pare down my scraps as we are going to be moving here in the next 6 to 7 months, and anything that I can kind of use and just be done with and not have to move, I think will be a help. So now I went ahead and cut some 1 inch strips, and I think I made them 3 inches long, of the Sawyer paper with all the splats on it, and that's what I was putting over top of the longer sheets in the background, or papers in the background. And I wasn't feeling the Sundance cardstock in this. It was pulling my eye too much, and that wasn't, I wanted a more soft feel for these photos. So I'm liking this with the grouping of colors. I especially like that the little banners are on top of the big pieces of paper. Kind of the trend has been to layer whole bunches of papers behind photos, and I've seen Jessica Dupinski did a layout a couple months ago that had a banner with multiple layers of different size pendants on it. Pendants, excuse me. And I really like that. So here I'm just cutting some banner ends at the bottom, or award end, ribbon ends at the bottom of all of the pattern paper. And now I don't necessarily show the making of a hinge for the stencil, but I'm taping all of the cardstock together, because originally I thought that I would have these pieces, strips, in color blocks along the top edge of the layout. I end up moving away from that, and I really do like the end results. This is one of those layouts that I felt like it was a fought battle to get to the end, and I had an idea and I thought it would be cool, but I really had to fight to get there. So here you're going to see that I'm taking that star stencil and I'm kind of holding it over the paper to get a good collection of different size stars without overwhelming it with the big stars. So I did put a piece of painter's tape along the top of the stencil to hold it to my protection mat. And then I also, you can see the painter's tape that's holding the papers down to the mat. And by using that hinge, it's kind of nice that you don't end up, I have issues when I do mixed media that I end up getting stuff everywhere. And I'll have ink in the wrong place, or if I have paints out in the wrong place. So by doing this hinge, it went ahead and consolidates where the mess is, and I don't feel like I have it everywhere that I'm then tracking it or getting it onto my other things. I do recommend, if you use textured paste or the gel glitter stuff, that you wash your tools off right away. It really does stick on there and is almost impossible to get off if you dry. So here I'm just taking the grape ink, and then I will move to mulberry, and I'm just brushing the color through onto the back of my paper. And I didn't show you me doing this, but I did gesso the White Daisy cardstock with a white gesso, and I try to do that in batches where I'll just do 20 pages all at once. And the reason why is when you gesso a paper, it kind of wrinkles it a bit, but by doing a whole stack of 20, 24, whatever I have, and then I can put them on a shelf and put other papers and heavy stuff on them, by the time that I use them, they've really flattened out, which is nice. So again, I'm just through the stencil using the different ink colors that I mentioned in the beginning, and just doing a random kaleidoscope effect, maybe I'll call it. But I'm just trying to put some ink colors on the background, and I thought about using Distress Oxides, but I didn't feel that I had all the colors that I wanted represented from the Sawyer paper. So now what I'm doing is, this is just a spray bottle of water, and because it has gesso on it, it'll reactivate, the water will reactivate the dye ink and have it run just a little bit to kind of muddy the waters, as they say. And you can see where I didn't get gesso on part of the background paper, where it didn't kind of let the ink run. And at first, when I was doing mixed media, those kind of things really bothered me. And now I'm learning it's just a part of the process. Just embrace it and move on. I used to work really hard to camouflage or cover, or I would have even thrown out this piece of paper at this point. And now I'm, like I said, I'm kind of going with it, and I'm working with it and moving on. So hopefully, if that's something that you struggle with, that you just, life is not about perfection. It's about imperfections, actually, and how we deal with it and move on. So I'm just dealing with it and moving on. So you can see here with these papers, because I had taped them together when I stenciled them, all the stars line up and they work together. Well, then I realized that I have more pieces or strips for the width of the cardstock, so I'm gonna have to either overlap them or cut them down. And I decided I wanted various lengths of heights on them, so now I'm trimming them so that the stars still line up, but that they're at various heights. And this is a zip strip that was from, again, one of the papers from the Sawyer collection. And I put it at the top, thinking originally my idea was kind of to have that rainbow effect coming down, because again, this is the International Order of Rainbow for Girls. But I wasn't quite feeling it, and I wasn't sure what direction to go in. So I decided, just take the next step. And the next step is to adhere these strips down to the top of the page and kind of see where this goes. And I wanted to create a curl at the bottom. And I actually used my old quilling tool from Close to My Heart. And as you can see, I'm overlapping these strips, and I'm not feeling it anymore, because the stars aren't lined up and it's color on color. So again, not knowing necessarily the direction I wanted to go in, I'm just doing something to make progress on the layout. So I went ahead and curled all the rest of the edges of these strips. So now I'm going back and just kind of dry fitting and deciding height wise, color wise, what's going to go where. now I finally realize, oh, that rainbow needs to go at the bottom, and it kind of highlights the colors that we did with the circle stencil. So I'm putting some adhesive on the back of all these strips, and I'm gonna attach them to the top, tucking some in underneath, putting some on top. It depends upon if the strip is longer or taller. And then I realized, because of the angle that I'm sitting at and making sure that you can see what's going on with my camera, I didn't get them all the way to the top of my cardstock base. So I'm moving those up now, and I'm liking the jumble of colors and the jumble of lengths of the curls. And it's funny, like I said, it was a hard fought layout, but I'm enjoying it. At this point I was kind of like, oh, I'm feeling it finally. So like I said, for me, it's I think it was in a movie of, you do the next right thing, and that's how you make progress in life, is to just do a task, and then when you don't know, what to do the next right thing. So for me, that's what I'm doing. Is the next right thing was to glue these strips down, and I needed to adhere the curls at the end because they're kind of bulky. And I don't know if you can see this on camera, but my base paper has some warps in it and waves, and I'm not worried about it. Again, in the past that would have very much bothered me. Once this gets into a page protector and into an album, the weight of the other pages are going to help flatten it out, and it's not even going to be noticeable. In fact, when I put this in a page protector, after I do a layout and I'm finished with it, I go ahead and put it in a page protector just to keep it safe. And just doing that really straightened out a lot of the warps and made it nicer. So I'm, not too old to adapt and change and just kind of go with it, I guess. So here again, I'm dry fitting the little pieces of the Sawyer pattern paper along the top edge. I've decided I like the placement of these photos, so I'm just kind of gonna put them down so that they're not square. This mixed media, to me, is more of a free form and less of a tailored look. And I'm not drawn to layouts with mixed medias where the photos or even the embellishments are more tailored or in a grid pattern. It needs to be kittywampus and off kilter. And I know that putting some photos that are tilted is difficult for many of us. I used to be one of them. I'm embracing it and moving on. So I find it funny watching this back that the very first paper that I put, I realized I need to have the green side forward so that I can have the pattern side on any of the base pieces that have that green side, just so that it stands out a little bit more and doesn't blend in too much. I'm really liking the blend of the splotches or flower, abstract flower petals that are on the pattern paper, but also the stars that are blending with, that are on those strips. And I don't know if you noticed in the photo that is the long photo, there's actually stars that are hanging from the ceiling in this auditorium as part of the decorations for Grand Assembly. So that's one of the reasons why I chose the star stencil. And here I showed you how I shaped some flowers. These are all from the Layered Flowers thin cut that's in the core catalog, and I did have a link up there, and there will be one in the description. I have 3 videos in a series that show you how I shape different flowers and create different looks even with the same base flower. So I had that link up there. Now I'm putting the journaling on. And the journaling is just something I printed from my computer, and it just talks about how in Michigan at the Grand Officers, we always looked forward to wearing our white business suits for the formal opening and for initiation and the installation and the more formal events. We had to wear our official long gown, but for the business sessions, we really look forward to having our white business suits on. It was just, as a grand officer, as a younger girl looking up to the grand officers, that was just fun. So here I went ahead and off camera shaped all of these flowers to just give myself some choices for embellishing, and I'm just trying to dry fit and get a feel for how I want these all to go on there. And I did just have enough of that dark, it's kind of a blue-gray paper that, like I said, it's not Harbor, but I'm not sure where it came from. It's from a Longtime paper pack. And I had enough to do some of the layered flowered thin cuts with that paper. And I ended up using up every scrap that I had of that, so yay me. And here we're kind of coming to the end of the layout, and I realized, you know, I need some more gems on this. I can see the stencil circles peeking out in the background. The stars are really just popping off the page, and I'm going back and using some old embellishments. And this is actually, I guess I don't know what color these gems are. They were out of the package, so I can't tell you, but the purple worked for me. Here's a close-up of the final layout. Please come back tomorrow and watch Julie as she highlights the stencils for the card number 1 pack. And then Dawn is on Monday, and the rest of the gals follow after that. And I will be posting on my Crafting with Amanda page all their different videos. If you aren't a subscriber, please do that. And here's another video for you. Blessings.